You are listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. Thank you for downloading and subscribing. Coming to you virtually live from high atop the historic Raleigh building in beautiful downtown Raleigh. The NC F&B takes the listener behind the scenes to tell the stories of the people that contribute to the creation of the food and beverage community of North Carolina. And now, the misfits in the dish pit, the faces of the front. They are Max, Trujillo, and Matthew Weiss.
Hello, and thank you for listening to the North Carolina Food and Beverage Podcast. I am your co-host, Max Trujillo.
And I am your co-host, Matthew Weiss. And today we are getting back to barbecue. We have the boys from Longleaf Swine BBQ, soon to be opening up in Transfer Co. right here in downtown Raleigh, Mr. Adam Cunningham and Marc Russel. Welcome, boys.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great.
Yeah.
So your faces have been familiar here in this office here at the kitchen. I think that's really how we got to know you, was that you guys have been devising your new plan with one of the gents, with one of the companies in this office. That's good old Matthew Konar, architect. He is helping you build your brick and mortar business. But this is not, you've been in business.
Correct.
This is just now the new level. So we'll get to where you're going, but let's start about where you came from, I guess, in some way.
So you started off 2 years ago as a food truck. That idea was the genesis of having too many beers over at Trophy.
Correct. Right about that.
Yeah.
A little bit of whiskey, too.
Oh, a little bit of whiskey, too? Nice. What were you guys doing before then? Before the food truck?
I was front of house at State of Beer.
Okay.
Working for Chris and Woody, and then Mark was over at Trophy.
Okay.
On Morgan, running the kitchen there.
Oh, gotcha. So some of them was company beer, some of them was on your own dime beers, which is why there was too many beers. Yeah, when you know,
free beers.
The beers were flowing.
If Chris Powers was listening, we paid for him.
Exactly.
I'm sure he's an avid listener. Yeah. So it was. I mean, people have said to us on the show, Max, that you guys actually don't talk about barbecue that much, and we don't because it seems just like, it's so obvious and so abundant, but sometimes it needs to be talked about.
But is it abundant here in Raleigh?
Well,
the
that's a good
Raleigh
point.
Area?
That's a good point. Not really.
I mean, that's where we started thinking about it when we were drinking and stuff like that. It's like usually when people come in, State of Beer, ask where should I get barbecue. It's like you got to go out to the sticks, unfortunately, to get the real deal Eastern North Carolina barbecue, and it's kind of that's what we started thinking. I was like, man, there's a little bit of a void in the market to be able to pull this thing off. Let's see how we can get our foot in the door.
Right.
And we kind of just started drinking, kind of getting ideas from there, put a little bit of a business plan together, and it's like, what can we do to be able to pull this off? So then we started looking at used food trailers from all over. We were lucky enough to find one in Virginia from a guy that was slinging hot dogs and hamburgers off of a really nice BBQ smoker that's very recognizable in North Carolina pig cooking. So we were able to get that, and it's been up and rolling since then.
And what was the idea? So you were going to do whole hog, smoked meats, and how do you do whole hog on a trailer? You prep it in a commissary kitchen as well?
So our trailer's 24 feet, so it's kind of bigger than what the kitchen he was working in.
Oh, wow.
I mean, it was big, but it got the job done. So we were able to do most of the prep on there. And then using the commissary when we needed to for fridge space and stuff like that.
Gotcha. And in terms of sourcing, is it always been local and always been the same?
To be real honest with you, this is the thing that we kept going back and forth with when we were fighting.
Real honest.
We were fighting back and forth with it because we wanted to use locally sourced products, all that stuff. But if we were able to do that, we would have to put a higher price on it for a food truck.
Okay.
And the food truck stigma is cheap, fast food.
Mm.
And if we would have done that, I think we would have been out of business in out of 6 months.
Okay. So where did you source from?
We get Smithfield pork and stuff like that. It's sourcing it from Restaurant Depot, but it's using Smithfield brand pork.
So will that change when you're
correct? That will change a lot.
Okay.
We've already been with our pop-up.
Yeah.
We're using Cheney Brothers, so it's Lady Esther's, First Hand Foods as well. We're getting hogs from and stuff like that. So everything's going to be changing.
Okay.
It's Lady Edison.
Lady Edison.
Lady Edison. I was just going to say, Sam Suchoff has got to get involved in that. So, well, I'll just reference, and Max, you can weigh in on this, but the first time I ever, you guys got into my stream of consciousness was Max was telling me about this burger he had at Foundation. And I was like, he's like, this is a burger like no other.
So Foundation, for all of you that don't know, is I can see Foundation from my my perch of where I'm sitting here high atop the 4th floor of the Raleigh building, because Foundation is a subterranean bar, and we've talked with Will and Vince, of the owners of Foundation previously. But they have a full kitchen, which I think was a product of like remodeling when they had like some, like, I don't know, like they basically, it was better for them to just put a full kitchen in because they had to do a remod. And by doing that, they're like, well, now we could be a restaurant, but we're not. We're a bar. So, but let's figure out something we can do. So let's call the gents over at Longleaf Swine. How did you know these guys to then come in and start popping up and doing arguably one of the best burgers in the state?
Appreciate that.
By the way, is that burger going to be there tonight? It is Monday, so you do pop-ups on Sunday, but
only.
sometimes
Sunday
Mondays.
We started out Sunday, Monday.
Oh, and now it's Sunday.
And then we went to month of September. Genius idea. We thought it'd be a good idea to go every 7 days a week at Foundation and try to run the food trailer with us too. So that was a terrible idea.
Died a little bit inside.
So
But where did that
Sundays.
connection come from, you guys, with Foundation?
So I work with Andrea's Kyle's girlfriend over at Foundation, and
Kyle Hankin, the bartender.
yeah, Kyle
there.
Hankin.
Yep.
And so we had gone back and forth a couple of times and just talked about what sort of food or whatever that they were looking for. And it came down that if we could just do a pop-up there every weekend and just try to get the mindset into people that they're going to be coming there and getting food on Sundays.
And let's not gloss over. You talk about Andrea, who's the sous chef at Death and Taxes.
Yeah.
With Ashley Christensen's restaurant, that's also a block away from where we're at right now. So it's kind of this epicenter. But yeah, Andrea, she's been there since the beginning, right? And
I believe so. Yeah, close to it for sure.
And you've been working at Death and Taxes, Mark.
Yeah, for about 3 years now.
Right. We just bumped into each other the other day as you're heading into work.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't even realize that. I was like, oh, you're just walking through the neighborhood. You're like, no, this is where I work.
Wow. So the food truck was your side hustle?
Yeah. So ever since the beginning, it's been the side/main hustle, I guess you could say it, because it definitely takes most of my focus on that. But been I worked at Pool's Diner and then also at Death and Taxes.
Well, and that's I want to reiterate, or I want to emphasize this point. It's something I even wrote in my notes. I do take notes, everyone. Maybe even the name of the title of this podcast, this episode, is like work as you create, and or something to the level of, do you want to build something? Well, find time to do it around the job that keeps you gainfully employed. A lot of people want to start a business, but they don't know how to do it, and then they have to find, like, well, I just don't have time. Well, if you don't have time to work on yourself, then there's no way. How could you expect anyone else to have time to buy into what you're trying to do?
Right.
And
exactly.
I thought that about you guys in so many different ways, because as you mentioned, these places you've worked before, you've always been fully employed doing something, but you started doing the food truck. You start popping up at Foundation on Sunday nights, Sunday and Monday, now Sundays, because you're getting a little busier. Cutting a little bit into the future, but Transfer Co. is open right now, and it's opening more outlets as we speak. But your place isn't fully developed and built yet, but you're already doing pop-ups at Transfer Co. Like you're working now, and the place isn't even ready.
Right.
Just tells me you guys have a motor, and you want to do this. This is your driving passion, and I love that about the idea of work and continuing. So anyone out there that's trying to do business, if you find that you don't have enough time to do it, it's you. It's not time. It's you're not crafting enough of your schedule to do what you truly want to do.
Exactly. Because for example, this past weekend, we did a Wake Forest, the Dirt Day in downtown Wake Forest. We were there from 10 to 3 on Saturday. So we were up at 3 a.m. we did 3 turns of ribs on the pit cooker and stuff like that. And with working Friday night and all that other stuff. So, I mean, you don't get a lot of sleep, but it's the exhilaration of like being your own bosses, doing what you want to do, doing your passion, and finding a way to work through it. And hopefully one day you'll be able to like kick your feet up and relax. And
That's not going to happen, man.
Yeah.
Well, it goes back to the old saying, find out what you love, do that for a living, and you'll never work a day in your life.
Yeah, that's nice to say out loud, but let's be honest, even when you do what you love,
You work 7 days a week.
Yeah.
You never
your
shut
knees
off.
and your back are still going, oh, you love what this is because this sucks right now. You're still going to hurt. You're still going to, but if you're going to do it, at least it's for you, right? And
Right.
like,
Yeah,
your soul
exactly.
feels better at the end of the day about putting those hours in.
Yeah, but I also like the fact that there was a need you guys saw, and you're so right. We've mentioned that before, but there's not many actual Eastern North Carolina barbecue options in Raleigh in the area. By the way, now we're going to be getting 2 with you guys, and then Sam Jones is
Right.
moving in the neighborhood,
perfect.
so that's going to be nice.
It's exciting.
It's super exciting. But you guys are not totally Eastern North Carolina. You say that there's a mix of Texas barbecue in there.
Yeah, so we like to like kind of incorporate just different styles of barbecue. So like even if it's like barbacoa or like Texas style barbecue or like Kansas City style, it's just incorporating all of those flavors and trying to figure out like what palate we want to kind of appease to.
Right, and Mark, you're Puerto Rican descent as well, and
Yeah.
that lays into some of the flavors that
Oh,
you're
yeah.
cooking with.
Very heavily.
So I mentioned to you when we were talking out front of Death and Taxes that we just had some food. You and Sam Jones Barbecue had provided some food for the Curate Scavenger Hunt, of which I won.
Nice.
My team, controversially.
Apparently, there's a lot of controversy going on.
A W is a W.
Yeah.
I pose it to all the people out there. This is what happened, and I'll be very quick with this. The rule was, do all of your members need to be at every location at all times, or can you split up? Because if the rule is you could split up, then we won. Or if you had to be at all places at all times, then Sean and Nation and Matt Fern's team, then they won. But rule was you didn't have to be at every location. And Steve Mangano, former guest of the show, sponsor of the show, or Curate app, said, "No, man, I told you, do what you can to win. Like it's cutthroat. Let's go. Let's do whatever you can by any means necessary." So by virtue of that, Trujillo takes the win.
Nice.
But as we were talking, Mark, that you were making food. Eric Montagny of Local Seafood was throwing down some great food, and Sam's Barbecue was throwing some food down, and then Longleaf Swine. I hadn't had any Longleaf Swine barbecue to this point. Your barbecue was just totally different than what Sam was doing. We all know Sam's barbecue is delicious. It's great. I mean, if you haven't had it and you're listening to this podcast, like go get some Sam's barbecue either out in Winterville or at Skylight, which is in Aden. And then I guess soon he'll be here in Raleigh, so that's convenient for everyone. But you guys were throwing down sausages and you were throwing down this corn. It was like Mexican street corn
Yeah,
or
the
something.
Esquites.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man, like everything you were doing just enhanced the offerings for the day. It wasn't like, oh, am I going to do Sam's or Longleaf? It's like, no, do them both because you're going to get so much more out of like eating satisfaction, which then also lends it to why you will succeed and do well at Transfer Co. because you've got so many other offerings there to eat. But you guys find yourself in a good niche, and I'd like for you, and maybe Mark, you're the pit master, to explain a little bit more about like the actual cooking and the recipes that you're doing and why you're going to exist, why you can coexist with other barbecue in the state.
So with what we like came to the table with at Transfer is kind of like the idea is like, all right, Sam Jones does Eastern North Carolina barbecue. Like that is his thing. With us, it's like we have all of these sort of options to utilize because we've read a ton of different books of different styles of barbecue and all that. And so with using like the flavor profiles that we've built up on the truck through the years, like either like making our own hot sauces, making like fermenting peppers and try to utilizing like those flavors and everything. It's like, okay, how can we apply that to what's already traditionally done? And try to change the game in that kind of sense.
I think we're moving forward with flavors, right? We're moving forward with everything we're doing. Grandma's recipes are great, but let's do it how we would like to cook. You know, Chidi Kumar made a great mention on the panel show that we did with the News and Observer recently, where we talked about, is Southern food in vogue right now nationally? And she said, well, let's quantify what Southern food is right now, because what Southern food was, when we think about it, is like we start thinking Southern food where our grandmas were making it in, say, the 60s. But was that what they were making in the 1760s? No, it was a completely different type of food, and it evolves all the time, so much so that when we're all grandparents, what the food is right now will be what our kids look back as, that was Southern food. It's like, well, yeah, but that's what we're cooking now feels very modern compared to what was done even 2 generations ago. So think that Southern food and cuisine and all cuisine is just a moving target. It's never fully defined as what the food is.
All right.
So I think you have classic and then you have evolving, right? Like if you go the example of a classic French restaurant still exists today, of what you're going to find there.
Right.
Versus
yeah, but don't you think that they even new restaurants that do classic French are moving it to a new level? Like by the virtue of using a immersion circulator,
exactly, like a sous vide machine.
Yeah, but that's not necessarily changing flavors. That's just changing technique.
Exactly. Technique will change the flavor. I mean, I guess I don't know.
So yeah, with the like technique and everything like that, like obviously that is going to change the flavor of everything. But like you said, like you still can go to a traditionally French restaurant, but that's like more single cultured because like French food.
Yeah.
But Southern food is so many layers,
right,
and so in depth. And so like the more research and like the more that you read about different things and like Edna Lewis cookbook, or like you could go read a Sean Brock cookbook and you can see how they kind of like intermingle with each other.
Oh yeah.
But there's still so many layers to like where the food is actually coming from and how the food was actually generated originally. Like all of that sort of thing.
It's the lay of the land or the agriculture, what's around them.
Yeah, and it's funny. One would always say, that Southern cuisine was kind of like Americana mixed with the slave trade movement, slave trade bringing over African flavors. But the one thing that doesn't get mentioned as much is like there's also the whole like Latin American culture part of it that I think is now seeping into, like Puerto Rican, Dominican Republic, Cuban food.
Yeah.
Previous guest, Eric Montagny is of Cuban descent, and he's bringing all these flavors up from what he had learned. And so that's fitting itself into, say from Miami, from Florida coming up, bringing itself into and representing. There will be a time, I don't think it's here yet, but there will be a time where Asian Americans are represented in the Southern food movement, where it's like, no, we're from here, we have ancestors from here, and our flavors are now developed inside of fried chicken, inside of collard greens or whatever. But that's the evolvement, right? But that's also Southern food because it's a place.
Yeah, because so I think with Southern food is just more of like the actual produce that you actually are able to get, and how you apply like everything that you've learned towards that produce, or like that protein, and which flavors actually really like blend together and work.
Yeah, I mean. And I think even it's kind of silly to just say Southern food. I guess maybe this was your original point, because Southern food changes, just like when you're talking barbecue, from North Carolina barbecue to South Carolina barbecue, and then a vast other amount. And
or even within the state.
Yeah.
Even
Western,
within the state.
Western North Carolina is.
Right. And if you say Texas barbecue, that's 4 different
that's
regions.
Beef, pork, totally different animals, stuff like that. But going off of what you were saying about the classic French restaurants and like the classic barbecue restaurant, you go in to get chopped barbecue, cornbread, slaw, boiled potatoes, and probably green beans.
Right.
And that's where we're trying to set ourselves apart in, is using the local produce and having Mark taking these sides that people are familiar with and just elevating those dishes.
Nice.
And that's what we're trying to do to set us apart for just the sides and the different styles of meat and stuff like that, so people can be able to enjoy everything.
Well, and that specifically, like if you mention, say, a particular side dish, this restaurant will remain nameless because I don't like talking negative specifically about anybody, but not everyone does everything right. And I was at a restaurant that is a barbecue style restaurant in this area, and I ordered the corn on the cob, and I got the corn on the cob, and I was just thinking, I wonder how they're going to do this. Like I wanted to be inspired because I know how I would do it at home, or I also just know how generically you just steam some corn on the cob and just give it to somebody, and that's effectively what they did. It was like just steamed corn on the cob, and I'm paying $5 for that side. But it's like, man, you had an opportunity to put some flavor into there. You had some opportunity to do something. I mean, even throw a pat of butter on it or something.
Right.
And that's what I go back to. When you guys did corn recently, it was this like street corn. Well, you tell me the flavors you put in there. I don't want to say it exactly how you did it, but I can't stop thinking about the corn you guys made. So what was that?
So Esquites is elote, which is Mexican street corn, but you just take it off the cob and fold in all the same flavors. So like, I mean, cilantro, chili powder, cumin, like a lot of these sort of bold Latino style flavors, and yeah, just mix them together and
then
you're making
you
it sound super simple, but
you sautéed it, or you because you took
so yeah, we'll char some of the elements in the dish to kind of like up the flavor and like give it different profiles and all of that. But
and then you just toss it. You just toss it with all those flavors.
Toss all those flavors
and you
together.
Just put it in a nice little cup, and was it a little cotija on top?
Yeah, cotija cheese,
cilantro, chili powder, and then a
powder.
little bit of lime wedge because you need that acid to cut all that fat.
But that's the evolution. I mean, I want that to go with my, with that acid that's there too. It lends yourself to think, well, we don't need all of the vinegar-based barbecue sauce because now I've got acid in my corn. So then maybe I could do more Texas barbecue that's a little bit more tomato-based or Kansas City style, because it's like it's not all reliant on the one acid component, which is the vinegar, which is the crux of all Eastern barbecue. But that's where you guys are looking at it like, no, let's expand, let's do more. And I think we all, flavor palette wise, we're all ready for that. We can do more.
Right.
And
how does that play into the wood that you're using to smoke? And do you use a lot of different, or because a lot of barbecue places they just say we're using this wood and that's it. So do you change that based on the dish or the protein?
Mean, it's mostly based on what we could find around here.
Okay.
Obviously, City of Oak, so there's a lot of oak trees. Mostly we're gonna be using oak and hickory. But we use like accent chunks to like get like a different sort of like smell and taste to it.
You're not using any longleaf pine?
We were not pine.
This beef is it's like piney. Yeah. That's what you described. Yeah. It's a very earthy beef. Is this grass fed? No, it's piney.
Yeah, pine likes to blow up really fast, so we try to stick away from using pine wood.
It's just a fancy name.
Right.
Yeah.
So like we'll use like different accent woods like apple and cherry wood and all that.
Yeah. So walk us through. So you have the food truck, of which still operating, and that's still running hard now. Will that cease when you open up the brick and mortar?
We're planning on doing solely brick and mortar.
Okay.
Focus on brick and mortar and the catering. We will still keep foundation on Sundays. Mark and I have been talking back and forth about it, and we want to give our employees a sense of empowerment, be able to say, hey, you get the menu for Sunday's supper series at Foundation. This is kind of your budget. These are kind of the ingredients you can use, but you can go crazy with it as well. But kind of give them a little bit of sense of ownership to kind of see, like, we're hopefully training people to try to own their restaurant or do something else to expand.
Awesome.
That's really cool. So it won't necessarily always be like the burger. It'll be what they want to do.
The burger
burgers
will
always
stay on because people will come pitchfork after us.
Is
We
there
can't take that thing off anymore.
Is there a count on them? If you don't get there by a certain time, will the burger be gone?
It depends if the D&T crew comes after when they close. If they come showing up, it's all over.
It's gone.
The burgers are gone.
Explain this burger to me, because I haven't had it yet, but now I'm thinking, oh man, I got to come down to downtown Raleigh on a Sunday night to get this.
So Adam and I went to Chicago probably about 2.5 years ago now.
Yeah, 2 or 3.
And we went to Wrigleyville and went to a Cubs game and all that. So what comes along with that is beers and alcohol, all that good stuff.
How you make all of your decisions.
Right.
Always.
Figuring it out.
Sound decisions.
Now let's put it on the plate like that. It's like, man. But yeah, so we went to Au Cheval in Chicago and had their cheeseburger there and a whole bunch of other plates. But that cheeseburger was literally like the best thing I've ever eaten in my life. And it was 2 single patties, then cheese, caramelized onions, just super simple, but like
Flat top. It
Flat
has to be
top.
on a flat
Yeah.
top. You need that.
I'm a huge fan of that. And I don't know why people don't understand, like, In-N-Out or even McDonald's for that matter. They're thin burgers, but the whole point is that you don't get that big meaty center that might not have like the ends. Like you have a thin burger, you get that crust, you get that crunch.
People want that crispiness.
Yeah, so you just put 2 of them, and then you still now have the thick meaty burger, but you get that inner middle
lining of crunch.
Such a good point.
Yeah, I don't know why people don't get that.
I think the flat top, though, is also key, right? Like,
Yeah,
people have a grill and they think, oh, I'll just grill my burger, but the flat top just...
You're losing all that flavor.
Yeah,
And
it's
so you
dripping
want
into
it-
the coals
right?
or the fire or the propane.
So it's a different type of flavor that you're getting, but yeah, like on the flat top, it just contains all that fat right there. And
Can you make an adjustment on, like, this is a tip for home, and you have a regular grill? Can you add like a piece to make it a flat top, or would it not be the same?
You can get a
Cast
plancha.
iron. Yeah.
It's a cast iron plancha or plancha.
Yeah.
It's just like a thin
Or just
sheet
throw
of metal.
or throw a cast iron
Or-
skillet,
yeah, or-
skillet
there.
on your grill.
Yeah.
Would that would do basically the same thing
yeah.
as a flat top? All right, there you go.
There you
Great
go.
tips for our
Simple.
listeners. Yeah.
This section sponsored by Lodge cast iron skillets. Right, Lodge?
Right?
Please sponsor us.
Yeah.
So what about the grind in the burger? Is that significant, or that's like what's good this week, what's fresh, and then the cooking techniques takes over?
And so with the grind on the burgers, like you want to get as small as possible, but it's whenever you're prepping the burger, you want to be able to emulsify all of that meat back into the fat, not have like individual ringlets of meat. But yeah, once you emulsify all that, you'll see how much more it actually contains with the fat.
Okay.
Once the product's
And
finished.
what about the mix? Is it like what are the cuts that are going in?
We're usually about like I say closer to 80-20 like fat to, or sorry, 80-20
Meat to fat.
Meat to fat. Yeah.
Meat to fat. But I'm trying to get out, like, is it from a ribeye? Is it?
It's chuck.
It's chuck.
Yeah.
Ground chuck. That's
Super simple.
That's a classic burger.
That's the
meat.
beauty about burgers is you don't need like the highest level of. You want a little bit of fat. You want it to be kind of pliable, easy to grind, and make it easy, so it's a delicious burger. So what's everything else? What else are we doing? It's
Classic American cheese,
just American cheese,
dill pickles, caramelized onions.
that's so
Potato
simple, but
bun.
it's so damn good.
Max,
Yeah, potato bun.
what's your go-to cheese on a burger if you were creating it?
To be honest, I think the best is to do like the lame manufactured American cheese because it melts the best.
Just melts
Yep.
so perfectly.
Yeah, I'll even dare I say throw some Velveeta on there.
Ooh.
I think that's a Sean Brock
How
thing.
dare you?
Yeah, but
try
Velveeta
that.
is great, man, because it's
Right.
like, and you can get a big old. If you buy it the way Velveeta used to come, I haven't bought it in a long
block.
time, but you get that big old block. You can do whatever you want with it,
Yeah.
however the thickness you'd like. But then we're having a burger, so you don't need like camembert.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you, Matt? What would you go with?
Oh, I mean, American cheese is always a classic. I do like a little spicy though, pepper jack.
Pepper jack. Yeah.
Get
I'll get
behind
that on
that.
my Subway sandwich
Big
because
pepper jack
that
fan.
usually lacks in tons of flavor over there. So like just give me
Ooh,
something.
I guess Subway's not going to be a sponsor
No,
now. But
Sorry,
Velveeta, you might be a
Velveeta, get
sponsor of
behind
our
that.
show. Speaking of sponsors, we should take this opportunity to talk about the Triangle Wine Company, which for all your beverage needs, whether it be beer, wine, vermouths, all that type of stuff, bubbly, they have 4 locations around the Triangle: Morrisville, Southern Pines, Holly Springs, and their biggest location in Cary. Maybe not their biggest, but probably their most well-known and
It's a
central.
flagship, if anything.
Yeah, the flagship right next to Whole Foods. They are awesome friends of ours. They have great selection of all your needs, and they have an awesome website, trianglewineco.com. Use the discount code.
What's the discount code, Matt?
NCFB pod.
Yeah, no, it's 4 letters, everybody. NCFB. You just type in NCFB, you save 10% on all
I'm
your
confused.
purchases.
Our listeners are definitely confused. Use NCFB promo code to receive a nice discount.
Oh, so okay. Well, we are the Food and Beverage Podcast. How does this fit into the beverage realm? Do you have a liquor license? Do you have a beer and wine license? You are right next door to Burial, which is there. We just talked to the gents over at Burial recently at the NC Beer Fest, and they're from Asheville, but they just opened up their Raleigh tasting room. So you're next door. Will you be able to buy
Yes.
drinks at Longleaf Swine?
You'll full beer, liquor. We're trying to be a shot in a beer place.
Oh,
No
cool.
fancy beer. We don't want to compete with Doug and Burial and stuff like that. And they understand it's just your good old crispy boys of Bud Heavy, like PBR, Coors Banquet, and shot of whiskey, tequila, or something like that. We don't want to step on anyone else's toes. And I feel like that's the best thing that flavor-wise that goes with barbecue as well.
Yeah.
You don't need any IPAs, any more bitterness or hops and stuff like that to add to the flavor profile of the meat and stuff.
That makes sense. And so you'll have a bar, like it'll be a full sit-at bar with a bartender and all?
So we'll have 10 seats at the bar, and that's all the seats we're able to put into our space. But hopefully people can utilize the whole transfer food hall.
Let's talk about how you're with the design, because I always find these conversations that I have with Matt Konar offline when we're just chatting about whatever to be extremely fascinating when you talk to a business owner that's getting ready to open a place, their wants and needs, and then you talk to the person that can put it together, like how they articulate it. So when you met up with the architect with Konar, what were some of the things that you said, like, this is what we want our customers to get when they walk in?
We wanted our customers to be able to see the smokers, which is very hard to do inside.
Yeah.
It's either you're having these brick walls and then having a little bit of a hole, that glass that you can see inside and stuff like that. But we want to take it another step further and be like, no, we want people to actually see the smokers. So what we had to do, and by the good graces of Wake County and going back and forth with them, we're able to put 2 smokers underneath a hood system. So it's almost going to be like a diner style, but with barbecue.
So because I got to imagine those hoods need to be champion hoods.
Oh, yeah. So we're going to have 2 hoods, solid fuel and a regular fuel that'll be next to each other, but it'll look like one giant hood system.
Yeah. Otherwise, everyone goes back to work smelling like smoke and barbecue.
Exactly.
I got the iron lung. Said the black lung. Iron lung still later. Yeah, I got the black lung. But cool. So you walk in. How many seats do you think you'll have?
10.
Yeah.
Just 10 seats total?
Correct.
Holy cow. So just 10 at the bar. That's it?
Yep. It's mainly going to be takeout and utilize the whole space. We're trying to figure out a way to either do like a pass-through window with burial or like to step up into burial space and to utilize more of their space, the patio as well, and then also the food hall with all the other 300 and 450 seats as well.
That makes sense. Yeah, you can eat there. That's such a cool space too. Transfer Co. is different than most food halls that I've seen in that it feels like there's a overall one arching vibe. Like there's a presence. It's not like a bunch of individuals doing their things. It's like everybody's here to kind of be in the same like vibe. It's like you walk in just like you're going into a great restaurant and it has this feel. And I think a lot of that has to do with Jason Queen and Joe Kwan and of course Nick Neptune, all of whom will get on the show soon. Maybe we'll ask if Joe Kwan can, but I know that Nick and Jason are talking to be on the show. But there's a good feeling when you walk in that there's a lot of collaboration and everyone's kind of down to work together. It doesn't feel like a food court at a mall
where everyone's fighting for their own stuff like that. I think this one is built more on community. I mean, they curated it that way to be able to get the right vendors in there. I mean, it took a little bit longer than what they wanted to probably, but we feel like they got the right vendors in there. We're all friends with all the cooks and chefs in there and front of house staff. It's like Raleigh, downtown Raleigh is a very small knit service industry crew. And I felt like they got the best of the best and everyone wants to work there right now. So, I mean, we're very excited and grateful to be in that space.
What's your timeline?
Hopefully we have Express Review coming up this Thursday. So hopefully the city of Raleigh will sign off on that part. And then hopefully August, September.
Yep.
Cool. So in between that time, everybody can still get the food truck. They can go to Foundation on Sundays.
And then the pop-ups at Transfer Food Hall. We're going to try to do Friday, Saturday, and Sunday here coming up, and then you can get food until we sell out because it's been going pretty fast. We can't cook enough food.
Yeah.
And that'll just be a stand outside or something
Correct.
like that?
Weather depending, it's just going to be 2 tables with chafing pans. You'll get 2 proteins. One's usually mostly going to be pulled pork, and then 1 specialty smoked meat, and then 1 to 2 sides. Just keep it simple, efficient for us so we can just give you in and out so you don't have to wait in line for a long time and stuff like that. So, and you just get a little bit of a tasting menu.
Right.
So we're not giving you everything at once. Hopefully you come back the next week and the next week and next week like that. So, I mean, that's our goal, and just spreading the word and take advantage of that beautiful patio space out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah. What do you think that once your space is open and you actually have the full brick and mortar going, what do you think that the consumer, the guest, will think walking out? Like, what are that person's impressions going to be? You know, somebody that's a schooled veteran of barbecue eating.
Hopefully they'll enjoy everything. I mean, it feels like barbecue is the most, everyone has their opinion down to what sauces you use, what type of meat, what type of wood. The more lately it's been slaw. Do you have sugar in your slaw? Is it more vinegar? Is there more mayo? Everyone's going to be a critic because, I mean, everyone can cook it at their house, but we're hoping to elevate it and give it to you in the rightful manner of what it should be. So we're hoping just everyone will be able to enjoy it. Maybe a little bit more elevated sides, a little bit more flavor profile to each different side item, and even smoked meat item as well.
Well, what's in your slaw?
Mayo, Duke's mayo, always Duke's.
Always Duke's.
Apple cider vinegar, salt, pepper.
Yeah, so no sugar.
No sugar.
Yeah, but that's
It's pretty much be utilized as like a palate cleanser.
Yeah.
From like all the fat and everything else that you're eating.
Yeah, because if you have too much sugar, then it's going to be sweet.
Yeah,
And then it'll ruin the
start
flavors. of
muddling
other
all the flavors together.
Matt, isn't that funny? It's like even talking to Amber Felici at Pizzeria Felici recent episode. When we asked her about her tomato sauce, she's like, yeah, we just open up really good cans of whole tomatoes, blend them, and throw salt in.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Like, you don't put any other herbs or anything? She's like, nope, that's it.
No,
That's
if you
the
have
tomato
good
sauce.
ingredients, you just let them showcase that ingredient, just add a little bit of flavor to it, just seasoning it correctly.
Yeah, get out of the way. The reason I asked you the question is because it seems to me like you guys are doing an elevated barbecue, I would say. You have the classics, but there's going to be some other flavors mixed in that people who are traditionalists might not get. So I guess I just want people to go in there with an open mind and have the. I would want for you guys that people who ate there for the first time, maybe not knowing anything, be like, oh, that was a whole different experience for barbecue. Like I got all my comfort food that I like, but then there were different flavors that I really enjoyed that were different and new.
Yeah, because the technique is like just based on old school like tactics, like just good wood, smoke, and a long time. I mean that's that. But everything else, like flavor wise and all that, is hopefully what would open their mind up to seeing like a different way of how barbecue be executed.
Right.
And the products we're using will be all local, so it'll be better quality meats, pork, like everything like that as well.
And other proteins, or are we going strictly pork?
Oh no, I mean we do beef and pork, chicken,
You are doing all
lamb,
of it. Okay.
all of that.
Yeah. Very cool, man. I'm excited.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, I'm starving now. I hope you're hungry too, listeners, because, yeah, that sounded awesome. But you're going to have to wait a little bit for the full place. But still, you can go and see where like, do you have a place with the food trucks that you open, like that you have a kind of a residency? Is there places that you keep?
It's all over the place. To be honest, the best place to find us will be at Transfer Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Yeah.
And Foundation on Sunday nights, where you can have a burger, and we'll have one specially smoked meat in there and a couple sides, and usually a salad and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, and I think when I was looking, your Facebook page has a good calendar of events
Correct.
where you guys are, so everyone can go
Yeah,
find that. If you just Google Longleaf Swine.
Yeah, and our
barbecue.
website, longleafswine.com, has a calendar of events. We also do catering. We do a lot of catering as well, so that's another outlet of getting our food as well.
Do you bring the truck to catering, or
Depends what the client wants. Sometimes we've done a whole hog for a client and had the trailer there. Sometimes they just want drop off, and so it just varies and depends on client to client.
That's awesome. Well, Matt, what else you got?
I got nothing. You guys said it all. I am very much looking forward to you guys getting your brick and mortar up and running, and I will definitely be at Foundation one of these Sundays to get that burger. So for all of you out there, look up longleafswinebarbecue.com, and you will eat and drink very merrily.
Thanks for listening to the NC F&amp podcast. And if you've stuck with us this long, review us on iTunes, and remember, 5 stars are encouraged.